Welcome back, beautiful people. Chris and Frankie here. There was an NXT premium live event last night,
Was it
Halloween
premium though?
Havoc. Shout
Was
out
it?
to WCW. What was your what were your impressions from the show overall? And then we'll dive a little bit deeper
Sure,
into
sure.
the
Um,
standout matches.
it was a good show. It was a good show. You know what it is? I feel like the NXT always has good, like premium quote unquote events because this is a premium to me. Feels like a glorified house show or
Yeah.
glorified episode of NXT 2.0, which I'm sure that's what they dropped it off. They dropped the 2.0 already, thankfully. But
Yeah.
I don't think they ever make a bad pay-per-view, quote unquote. They make their show is what's been lacking, obviously, as of late for the last year. And obviously their shows weren't always going to be bangers under Triple H, but what was always a banger was the pay-per-views.
Yeah.
And
Guaranteed.
they never really make a entirely bad show, in my opinion. And from what I remember, but so far, this was a good show. Trying to cleanse itself of the 2.0 era and trying to move forward with what they have. And overall, it was a really good show. I think you and I gave it a lot of praise last night. It was fun. It was really fun. It was a fun time to just watch some wrestling. Um, wasn't so long. Wasn't gonna be a 5 hour, 6 hour show. Wasn't overly booked. It was a good show. It was a clean cut of the mill show. Down the middle, nothing to it, nothing too much to say about it other than like if you want to go see it, go out of your way to go see this show because it's got some good action. It's
There's
got some good
definitely some
action.
matches that are should be like mandatory viewing, at least
Yeah,
like for as like matches
yeah.
of this year that are going to be on that list. We don't pay attention to weekly NXT really that closely anymore.
Nope.
So there were definitely a few matches on this card that were in a good way, paying off the hardcore viewers, whoever's left
Yeah,
of that
sure.
group. The ambulance match was definitely for people who've been watching the TV show for the last few months because I'm going to be completely honest, I didn't know who either of those dudes were.
Yeah.
I definitely was a fan of them by the end of the match, but going into it, Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez, I was a little more familiar with them.
Hmm.
Alba Fire and Mandy Rose. I mean, we know Kaylee Ray from NXT UK, and Mandy
Yeah.
Rose has been dominating the women's NXT division for like a full year. But I thought the one of the cool things about this show, and I guess it'll kind of lead us into the first standout
Hmm.
match, was that it kind of reminded me of like when you took me to my first takeover show a few years ago.
Hmm.
Well, I guess it's like 6 or 7 years ago now because we're
Jeez,
getting old. When we first went there, I really didn't know who any of those people were. Like I never heard of Johnny Gargano and Andrade and Malachi
that's
Black and
crazy.
yeah, Adam Cole. Like he came out and everybody was going nuts. I'm like, who
Who?
is this? So I was I was pretty like casual main roster WWE, Batista,
Slowly
Rey
coming back.
Mysterio, all those kinds of guys that we
Hmm.
grew up watching. But watching this show, there were a lot of names that reminded me kind of the old NXT, if I can
Hmm.
be so bold as to say, like,
Yeah.
specifically in this ladder match, which was 5 man, which was interesting. I'm
Hmm.
not entirely sure if that was always the plan or they just couldn't really figure out a fifth person that would make sense. But I guess Wes Lee probably deserves the most discussion because he was in a tag team.
Yeah.
Like this guy wasn't going to get a singles push. I mean, maybe ever, but certainly not for a while.
Yeah.
Um,
He's super
and
young. He's still really young.
yeah. But dude, I don't know about you, but seeing him in this match, I was like,
Dude,
this could be like one of the next guys.
yeah.
I
And
mean,
he's a short king. He's only 5'7".
yeah, super. I mean, this match
Doesn't look
from
it.
start to finish was a banger. I
Hmm.
thought it was fantastic. NXT North American ladder matches are usually just really good. But especially going in not really being that familiar with the people in the match, I think who's the big lug that was in
Oh,
the
Van
guy?
Wagner.
Yeah, he was probably the greenest. Like In terms of like there were just a couple spots that were like, yeah, it's kind of tough because he's really
Yeah.
big and the other guys are a little more agile.
Hmm.
But he also had the standout spot of the match.
Dude, we lost our shit. Dude basically
Yeah.
murdered Wesley.
Yeah, he threw I mean it was a spot that I'd
Attempted
never
murder.
seen and I think it was even more impressive because the table didn't break.
Hmm.
But he like in the event that you somehow didn't see, didn't watch this show, he picks up Wesley into a military press and from about like halfway in the ring, full body throws him onto the announce table. Like it is such a visual spectacle.
Yeah,
I was talking to Frankie. I'm like, they must have practiced this in like a, foam like gymnastics pit or something. Cause like
something.
that spot was so insane. But I mean, I think this match drew a lot of parallels to kind of that first NXT um, North American title ladder match in that it made a lot of stars. Like there were, I remember Velveteen Dream came out of that match looking really good.
Hmm.
Big Damo came out of that match looking really good. Even Lars Sullivan, like um, these matches can make a lot of stars. And I think I don't know about you, but I came out of this match like being really I only knew Carmelo Hayes. And like aside from him, I was like, yeah, I think Von Wagner was in like NXT UK for a bit and like might have come up to the main roster for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, it was just
Um,
random.
but I came out of this match being like, damn, this is they might be onto something. There might be, a new core of NXT guys that we kind of started to see first form when we went to that show all those years ago.
Yeah, this is these are everyone I think in this uh in this pay-per-view was probably under 30. Everyone was under 35. I'm willing to bet, and I'm sure the purists and the people who watch NXT religiously or anything wrestling related or WWE, whatever you like, you know, just don't knock us for not, being in tune with this NXT anymore. Because let's face it, they killed it. But like something about now knowing that there isn't like a 40-year-old champion. No offense to like, I'm not ageist, but it's just like, the whole point of NXT was to elevate younger talent. And I guess
Yeah,
also elevate maybe talent you never heard of for, the and it's specifically made for the people who only watch WWE
right.
because they don't care about what's out there. But, I knew about Wesley, knew about the Young Rascals before they became MSK and WWE and before that ended because of, um, PR nightmare or PR for unfortunate PR things
Yeah.
that ended the tag team run. So it was a hard year for Lee. So, to see him come up and get the push because in a way, in kind of in almost in like I'm not trying to take anything away from him. And as I think about it sitting here, it's like they're kind of apologizing to him for, you got the tag titles, but then we immediately had to take it away from you literally the next day.
Yeah.
Uh, so like it's like almost an apology to him. I don't know why he didn't even get a chance to shine when it was time to face Carmelo Hayes. That was an interesting choice, and then the whole thing with a solo, and then winning, and then having to give it back because of some BS rule that it made no sense.
It
You
was
know,
just bad
it was really
writing.
bad
Yeah.
writing, bad
Yeah.
booking, and honestly, like if you were watching this and you were just bitter going into this, I don't blame you. Us, luckily, we were just so ignorant to the show that we hadn't watched after, you know, even after Trips had taken over and Vince was gone, and
Hmm.
after the title exchange, whatever, we just went in ignorant. And we're so happy we went in ignorant because it was a hell of a show. It was a hell of a time. That ladder match made stars. What was the other guy's name? Zayd? Something Zayd? Got the Clark Connors of
Oh,
uh,
Nathan Frazier.
oh, Frazier. Yeah,
Yeah, shout
Frazier.
out to Nathan Frazier. That guy, another guy that like,
Put
I
us
thought
on.
could have won, and I probably would have been like, hell yeah, this is awesome.
Even Hayes winning wasn't a terrible idea, but I think he's on his way up. Which is fine, but sucks. Because he could be a champ. He should be champ. He could definitely
Yeah.
be the NXT champion. But everyone's so young.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be excited about. These kids essentially were almost men in their 30s and they're close to our age kind of. But like Wes Lee is only 27. He has plenty of time to be that guy for
Oh
that
yeah.
brand. And he is that guy for the brand right now in the mid card. And I hope to see him have these crazy. title defenses because, yeah, there was another crazy spot in this match too. The spinning, or not, it wasn't in this match, or was it? I can't remember. Um, the spinning like Hurricanrana, not the spinning Spanish fly from the back onto the ladder. It was into
Oh,
the ladder. Yeah, it was onto the
yeah,
ladder.
that was fucking nuts. I never the reverse Spanish fly off the second rope.
Yeah,
That was crazy.
that was by our new boy,
Nathan Frazier.
Nathan Frazier. This guy can go a lot. There was a lot I
Yeah.
think you can highlight about this match. We could just make an entire podcast about this. Um, so I'll end it on my part. Like this was great to see. I love ladder matches. I love the North American title. It's a beautiful belt.
Yeah.
I'm happy. Whoever would have won it besides maybe Wagner, I wouldn't have. I would have been whatever. That's because it's a safe choice in a way because he's tall and a monster. You can give him a
Yeah.
long run, but they went with you know another short guy again, another guy under 6 feet because Carmelo Hayes is not 6 feet. The kid's like 5'8", 5'7" too probably, and but Wesley just has something to him. If you see
Yeah,
him,
there's
if you saw him with with his tag partner, there was just something about that said like these guys are going to be something. Obviously, it didn't turn out to be. So now let's focus on Lee. Lee's got something. It's going to be him hopefully for years to come.
yeah,
Um,
there's something kind of about Wesley that sort of reminds me of like a I don't this is like not an insult, but sort of like a dorkier version of Ricochet,
mm-hmm.
where like Ricochet is very cool. He's like a super hot dude with
Yeah.
crazy offensive moves, like does all this insane shit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's sometimes hard to buy him as sort of like a well, because he's been a babyface for his entire WWE run.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of hard to buy him as like an underdog because he just has the look of someone who's a fucking like Power Ranger. Like he just looks so cool. And there's something about Wes Lee, especially with the story of MSK, which
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know if if they're allowed to or how much they're gonna even like use that going forward. But there is something about him that just has like kind of a like Rey Mysterio vibes, kind of just
Sure,
like this
sure.
guy who just like really feels like they've got something with him. But I guess lastly on this match, I just wanted to say that it's an interesting decision on who they gave the belt to because I think really they could have given it to any of these guys. And sometimes you see uh, companies want to use the mid card belt or they want to use the winner to elevate the belt.
Right.
Like we talked about this, kind of off to the side, but like my idea of wanting John Moxley to eventually be TNT champion because I
Sure.
feel like he could elevate that belt to feel more important.
Mm-hmm.
But in what we've seen with the North American title right now is they're using the title to elevate the person so that you feel like, oh, this person's more important because they have this title now. And because there
Mm-hmm.
aren't like
Mm-hmm.
that many titles in NXT, it's like there's one mid card, there's one, or at least for like men's, there's like one men's mid card, one men's heavyweight champion, and the tag belts. And that's it. Like if you don't have any of those, like you're not a champion. And Wesley had the tag belts and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
And now he's gotten one of the few championships in NXT, so it feels like now he's elevated to that next level of like, oh, take him seriously.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's just really cool to see. And honestly, I hope that we're now given a reason to take everybody who was in this ladder match seriously.
I
Um,
completely agree.
that's really cool. We wanted to touch on also the last match. I thought that this pay-per-view was structured
Whew.
really interestingly. It felt like, I think HBK is head of NXT Creative right now. It
Mm-hmm.
felt like they looked at the card, they knew that they had two guaranteed bangers. And in that scenario, what do? You have one of them open the show and you have one of them close the show.
Classic
And
HB
then whatever
HBK.
happens in between is house money. And yeah, dude, this triple threat, I guess first off, how do you feel about the person who won? Do you feel like this was the right call?
I guess it's a safe call, but I wish they didn't go that way. I think the crowd was feeling um Ilya.
Yeah,
Well, spoilers, I guess. Ilya did not win.
he did not.
He did not.
Not
Um,
only did he not win, he did get pinned.
which we talked about off, but
Yeah.
like I want to highlight how like you made a very fantastic point. All credit to Chris, not mine. He said like, well, JD also didn't win, so spoiler, it was Braun who retained.
Spoiler, the guy who's hasn't lost. Oh, I guess he did actually
He
lose to Dolph
lost.
Ziggler in a
Yeah, he
really
lost his Dolph.
that was so
Stupid
dumb.
booking. So, I
That
mean,
was
this is
so
how
dumb.
I'm so happy 2.0 is dead.
Man.
Stupid booking. But look, Braun won, and like you said, he beat JD, and
He did. Yeah.
JD couldn't take another pin again. Like then you just
No.
you push him down the card further down into
Yeah,
match.
not if they want to keep him as a main eventer, then you
Mm-hmm.
can't pin him in back. It would have been back
Yeah.
to back title match pins, which
Yeah.
is you're
Not good.
like banished from the title scene for a while at that
Yeah.
point.
And he's still building up a name, trying to recover from, himself a PR disaster,
Yeah.
and also having to scrub his former name, which, Jordan Devlin, that name is now synonymous with a lot of negative things about him and also positive, but it's mainly negative. So in a way, getting him a new name worked because everyone was like, he played his role. He was a heel,
Yeah.
but he was also like being cheered because he was a good heel. Everyone here was pretty much played their role to the T.
Yeah.
No one outshunned the other. I want to say. I think everyone got to shine effectively. If you didn't know who Ilya was here in the States because he was trapped in the UK brand, now you do. The man chops hard. The man is really like he's just a good competitor. Don't know how his mic skills are, honestly. I
Yeah.
never watched one of his promos, I'll be honest, but like there's just something there when it comes to the in-ring action, and you don't need him to talk. He does his talking in the ring.
He's so good in the
He's
ring,
he's
dude.
so good.
He's
He
so
he
good.
chops like as hard as for a short man. He chops so hard.
I saw a comment on Twitter from somebody who was like, Ilya has like already outgrown NXT, and this one and only regular 2.0 or new
Yeah,
NXT title match. He's
yeah.
only had one match, uh, and he's already outgrown. And I'm like, I can't. I mean, you're not wrong. Like he was in NXT UK for a while, and
Hmm.
would I be mad about Ilya versus Walter again, except on the main roster? Oh my
And for
God,
the
like
IC
don't tempt me.
title,
Um, but yeah, I mean, I know that Braun Breaker wins. You guys are gonna see the thumbnail of this video on YouTube, and it
oh.
says Cena wins LOL with a big angry Braun Breaker face. Because I think that, if you want to kind of Men in Black, forget the Dolph Ziggler thing happened, which I think is probably for the best. Braun Breaker wins a lot. He
Hmm.
wins so long as Vince is not like having a weird, let's just do a random title change just because. He wins all the time. He doesn't get pinned. He wins clean. He wins in a dominant fashion. Um, and I think I understand the people who are tired of it because we grew up with John Cena winning all the time.
Oh yeah,
Uh, Kind of the same exact way. Like he kicks out of everything. He just usually only takes like one finisher to beat you. Sometime, depending on the match. I know Triple H loves his false finishes.
for sure.
Um, I don't I don't have a problem with him winning because I do think if you want to keep building him up to the point where it's going to be surprising when he loses, I think there's a lot of value in that. It's kind of like
Hmm.
Roman Reigns, where it's
Right.
like he's beaten so many people that not only do you not know who's going to beat him, but if he actually does get pinned, you're going to be like, holy shit, somebody beat this guy. And so I think there's value in having someone like that in NXT. I think also Braun deserves it because I was thinking back to when he basically was just handed the title from Tommaso Ciampa,
Hmm.
who many of us, is widely considered one of, if not the greatest NXT champions of all time, right up there with, Finn Balor and Adam Cole. But over the last year that he's been wrestling, he's gotten a lot better. And, I think that he probably deserves the run that he's on. I'll be honest though, while I do think him
Sure.
winning is fine, uh, and I don't have a problem with like the Super Cena, Super Braun, he never loses kind of stuff.
Hmm.
I do think it's getting to a point where I'm like, I don't know who beats him anymore. because you could do a one-on-one with him and Ilya, even though Ilya got pinned. But I mean, you could say that Ilya was going to win because Jordan stopped the 3 count, which was one of the coolest fucking spots I think I've seen in a
Yeah, we
triple
we
threat
we
match
both
before.
popped for that.
That was the timing involved. He catches the ref's hand like an inch before it hits the mat.
Yeah.
So they could play off that. Um, I don't know you know if you go back to Ilya right away. Um, it would be interesting to see if people are into that. I think that the crowd maybe weren't that hot for him when he came out, and then by the end
Hmm.
of the match, they were like, "Oh shit, this guy should win. He's awesome." So it would be cool to see Ilya win, but I think right now the only problem with Braun is that you're kind of running out of guys for him to beat where it continues to build him up because this
Hmm.
win built him up more. But the only problem is like, how do you now? Whoever is next has to be seen as even more threatening than a triple threat. Where, for those of you who don't know, the champion is actually at a disadvantage. So I don't know, man. Do you have any thoughts on Braun going forward?
I think the looming threat is what we thought was going to happen, which was the cash in. I had no idea that it was treated or teased, excuse me, this week until you let me know, like immediately, or was it last week? Whatever. It was like, yeah, like Austin's threatening or teasing that he'll cash in on Braun, and I'm like,
Yes.
yes, do that. There's no way in hell like even if he won on the main roster, taking one or two or both, whatever belts away from Roman, it just would not feel right because then someone can pin him and he's on a terrible losing streak and then he's just a joke. And Theory has something that will, be there. Vince was right about him. I think something is there. We just don't know what exactly. And just to like highlight everyone in the five like the five-way ladder match is under 30. And
Mm,
Theory is still younger than all of them.
yeah.
So Austin would only benefit immensely if he was the face of NXT. He's 25 years old. Oh, I think Fraser's actually 24. Doesn't matter. Like he's in he's in a beautiful age range to be champ and the face that runs the place. Cena wins, LOL. And he could be that, and why not? But
Yeah.
as a dastardly heel, he's got the look, he's got the height that every promoter wants, especially Vinnie Mac. Rest in peace. He's not really dead. I'm just saying that. Um, there's something there, and so that's the threat that they need to highlight. And I'm sure, and just be from that tease, we know that's gonna like I feel confident enough to say that's where it's gonna go. That's the direction it's gonna go. It's gonna be Braun and Theory, but it's gonna be Theory coming out on top after a cash in.
It would make a lot of sense if, I mean, honestly, like I totally bought in, and so they did a
Mm-hmm.
good job sending Theory out there on the Go Home show because
Mm-hmm.
I totally bought into it being perfectly viable that not only would he show up, but he would cash in. He didn't even show up.
Yeah,
Like that was clearly done as just a last minute tease to get people to watch.
probably.
And it was super smart because the whole time, I think like halfway through the title match, we were like, oh shit, like this could become a fatal 4-way, or Theory could come out, if Braun has like they do the whole he was too tired, he was exhausted, like kind of like when Bobby Lashley lost to Seth Rollins a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have totally played on that and it would have made sense. Um, I think that they clearly have some sort of plan with Braun overcoming everything, kind of like what Roman Reigns did for several
Mm-hmm.
years before he started cheating with the whole bloodline angle, and
Yeah.
what we saw John Cena do for a very long time,
Mm-hmm.
where there's just no scenario where you're going to pin him, even if he's super fucking tired. That
Yeah.
being said, kind of like what you're discussing, I think that Austin Theory is the next NXT champion would make a lot of sense,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be a great chance for him to kind of play off of this like chosen one gimmick, but do
Yeah.
it in NXT.
But do it in
Like
NXT,
he was
yeah.
called up too soon to begin with, and if you want to make him more viable, it would make a lot of sense that like part of the story is that he goes back to NXT and like figures himself out. Especially now that Johnny Gargano beat him, you could almost say like Johnny Gargano kicked him back to NXT.
Yeah. He's
Um,
his daddy.
yeah. So it would be interesting to see if that's where they go. I will say at the very least, I didn't really feel like this before. I know that there's a plan with Braun Breaker
Sure.
and whatever they plan on doing with the NXT title. I did want to say that like I think it is worth noting that NXT right now is kind of in a weird in between, as it's
Transition.
literally,
Big transition phase.
yeah, big transition. It's only been a few months since Triple H got the reins and started making all his changes to personnel.
Mm-hmm.
So there are probably, I think what we're going to start to see is like Triple H back in the classic black and gold NXT. He would always give people chances. Like I remember really not liking Kona Reeves. I just didn't I
Mm.
didn't enjoy his work. I didn't enjoy his matches. I didn't think he was that good. Triple H gave him a lot of opportunities to get over.
Yeah.
And then eventually was just like, it's not working. We tried it, but it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from that, Triple H also had his like trusted circle of guys that would always be on NXT. Like
Yeah.
it became, Matt Riddle, Gargano, Keith Lee, Ciampa, Adam Cole, obviously, carrying across Samoa Joe, Finn Balor, those kinds of guys who were always kind of circling, Undisputed Era, tag title kind of stuff, Ricochet for a while. Um, and so I think maybe what we're going to see coming out of this show is the slow formation of them kind of picking out who the new circle of trust is because
Mm-hmm.
Grayson Waller, while he's not really clicking for me, he has been on a lot of shows this year. So they see something. They think
Something.
that there's something there. They clearly believe in Wesley, Carmelo Hayes, um, Von
Even
Wagner,
Apollo.
maybe. Yeah, Apollo would be cool. Uh,
Talk about a guy who
I
got called up too early.
That was a weird match.
It was a random ass match. I still had
Yeah,
fun. You know what? It was fun. It was
it
still
was
really
like
fun.
I think overall the show was fun. I saw people kind of saying like, "Oh, the Ilya had to save the show." I'm like, it wasn't it wasn't a bad show, but if your barometer for NXT Halloween Havoc is every other takeover show that's ever happened, then
Hmm.
like, yeah, it's not going to be as good as those. Those were like
Yeah.
all-time great show.
Yeah.
NXT, you could argue, has put up some of, if not the best pay-per-views of all time.
Oh yeah. Of this
So I
era.
thought the matches in between the first two were fun. I think the only thing
Yeah.
that
We're
really
fun.
didn't click for me, maybe you have one of these as well. I just the Kaylee Ray, um,
Or Elba Fire
yeah,
and
Alba
Mandy
Fire
Rose.
and Mandy Rose, that seemed like it could have been
Something.
something, but
Yeah.
then it was like I was kind of buying into the haunted house stuff.
Yeah.
And then
You
the
were
way
hoping for
the
a
match,
cinematic match, huh?
yeah, like the way the match finished with Gigi and the other girl who's actually a really good actor in the haunted house
Mm-hmm.
somehow getting back to the arena despite Alba Fire taking the car
Yeah. They
and
Ubered, man. They
spending,
Ubered.
yeah, right. Like how the fuck did they were like both kidnapped? I don't know. That one didn't really work. I thought the ambulance match was actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's
Um,
violent.
yeah,
Roxanne, like this whole entire card was basically better than an Extreme Rules match card in the past too, where it's like perfectly tamed rule match, like replace Extreme Rules and just put perfectly tamed rules match, and that was an always running joke every year. Like Extreme Rules was not that extreme. This was an Extreme Rules match show, and it was
yeah,
fun.
true.
It was fun.
True.
That
Yeah,
crazy
there
spot too
were
with Roxanne and Cora Jade, I think, whatever her name is.
Yeah, they had a pretty fun match.
Yeah,
Uh, it was
all
cool to
around, it was
see.
fun.
It's cool to see two women's matches on the card. We usually don't
Mm.
get that.
Yeah, it
Imagine
was,
that. Two women's storylines going at the same time.
yeah.
Tony Khan would never.
Never. Oh, everyone's gonna think we're WWE marks now.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I wanted to touch on here was that I remember like about a week ago or a couple weeks ago when it came out that HBK basically said like, yeah, we're not going to go back to running arenas for a while, maybe ever. I don't think I don't think it's never going to happen again, but
Mm.
I
Yeah,
do
that's sad.
think it's going to be a while. But that being said, I mean, my immediate reaction was like, damn, that kind of sucks because we went to a few of those arena shows and the crowds would be fucking insane,
Hot.
like crazy hot crowds, 20,000 people going nuts. Um, but I think it's actually a really good thing that this show was not done in a big arena,
Yeah.
because there are some elements to this show that felt very developmental
Mm-hmm.
and kind of people sort of getting used to, I guess, a bigger stage or no commercial breaks, that sort of thing.
Oh, word.
This was a very like fast-paced, lot of fast-paced matches. This like had a similar feel to some of the other NXT takeovers in the past. But I think that like maybe when they come out of this transition period, like you said, maybe then they kind of know who they can trust and maybe who is still a little bit too green for a big arena. But
Mm-hmm.
I think it's I think it's going to be a while, and I think it's not a bad thing because they still kind of have to figure out what this version of NXT is going to be. And until you kind of know the answer to that, you probably shouldn't try to sell, 10,000 tickets.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I'm still like heartbroken at the idea that now that we we ended the era of the rainbow tie dye, and it instantly, started the like, oh, we're gonna get NXT takeover events back and arena matches. And then finally it's confirmed by HBK that we're probably never gonna do that, and not for a long time, or never. Like, it's hard to say. Like, I'm a little disheartened and not feel deflated about it. Like, damn, so like we'll never see NXT like again. But like the whole point is they did say that they would like still travel.
Yeah.
Um, so that's nice. So maybe we'll see an NXT house show, but like just not have them like, do an NXT takeover. Like, I think it's a mistake because like it's like you said, it's like, you it's like kind of like to see what works because it is like developmental style. But then when you do the bigger arena matches, it's to show you like, is this person going to be ready for a WrestleMania, or
Yeah.
or a Royal Rumble, one of the big four, or even just a B pay-per-view show like Backlash, or the throwaway of Fastlane. God, I hate Fastlane. It's a
I know.
terrible.
I
They
think
should just get.
they're gonna get rid of it.
I hope so. It's a terrible pay-per-view time. And like,
Yeah, stop doing pay-per-views after like in between, like right before WrestleMania. That doesn't make
yeah,
any sense.
in between the biggest one, which is the Royal Rumble, and then yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
What happened to Elimination Chamber?
Yeah, that was actually a pretty good pay-per-view,
That
wasn't
was
it?
a good paper. Remember when Bray won? That was great.
That was amazing.
But
Yeah.
like, it's just like they should have arena matches so they can see if Wesley is gonna be a good main card
Yeah.
potential, maybe world champion at some point, or a good tag team. Again, because let's face it, like he is a tag team specialist. He was in the tag team division at TNA or Impact for a long time. So he built his name being a tag team specialist with his partner. But now, he's obviously has the chops to just be a single. I feel like if you take away any tag team, like they have the capability of being a single star. Not every single star is capable of being a tag team for sure.
Right,
I
right.
mean, yeah, sure, the odd couple pairing, that's just for like shits and giggles and maybe viewership and to see how it goes. But Wesley obviously has the potential and he should be on the main stage. He should be doing arena matches. I feel like you're kind of doing a disservice to some of these guys who I get like came to NXT to eventually be on the main stage in the main roster, being on Raw or SmackDown and doing the pay-per-views on the main roster, but also like you want to make sure they're ready because like the best example is like all these guys that came up through was like Seth, or not Seth, because I don't think they actually did take over as well. He was there, but like Finn and Shinsuke, will they click with the crowd once they do a main roster pay per view? And
Hmm.
when you hear their music start for Shinsuke and the whole arena in NXT show, which is supposed to be a developmental show, not a third brand, everyone's singing along. That's when you know this guy's going to be great on the main roster doing arena matches for the main roster, doing for main pay per views. So like that's how I look at it, and I think it's just it's a disappointing statement, but I understand. Like, I agree with what you say too, but it's, as me, my personal opinion, it's like I think it's a mistake. They shouldn't do that, and they should get back to it sooner rather than later, especially after this. And hopefully, if people keep praising the masses of this show, then maybe
Yeah.
they'll do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think that too, as fans, it's going to be a little bit tough because a lot of us that are like just now starting to trickle back to watching NXT, at least pay-per-views. I don't know about weekly TV just yet.
Yeah.
But a lot of us saw NXT at its peak. And so we can't forget that. And in the back of our minds, we've already seen what NXT can be. We've seen it become one of, if not the greatest wrestling promotion in the world with the
Hmm.
greatest roster all at one time. And so seeing what it is now, even though it's improving, I get the frustration of like
Yeah.
we want the old NXT back. Like deep in
Yeah.
our hearts, we want black and gold NXT. We want the black mat. We want the gold lights and like the lights to dim when they do a title match and all that stuff. And I think that for a while maybe NXT started to lose its identity before the 2.0 stuff.
I
And
guess so.
coming
Yeah.
out of that, it has to try to find what this new identity is. It's probably going to be something between developmental and being a third brand
Yeah.
because, you still want it to be taken seriously. It's not main event, it's not something like that, which really is just like a throwaway
Yeah.
show that they film for 30 minutes before a regular TV show. But it's going to take a little while. I do think after this show, it feels like it's headed in the right direction. It feels like I'm a little more intrigued into what's happening in NXT than I
Mhm.
was, and that is exciting. I
That
don't
is
know if
exciting.
it'll continue, and
Yeah.
hopefully it keeps up the hype, but based on this show, it feels like we're headed in the right direction.
I think so. So, with that being said, sir, take us home.
Gonna be all for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for listening. YouTube, Anchor, we appreciate you. We will talk to you all in the next one. Peace out.
Peace.